Okay, so we're going to record this Access Project 3. I'm going to start with that. Guess what we're starting with when we do Access Project 3? We're starting with what we did up till now in Access Project 2. So here I have Access Project 2 sitting there from last time. I'm going to do a File, Save As, File, Save As, and it already chooses Save Database As, so I just hit Save As again. Now I know this whole Save As thing is a little goofy, but that allows you to save pieces of your database or objects inside your database. But this time we're saving our database with a new name, Save As, and I'm going to give it the new name, you guess what? Last name ac3.accdb. Now remember, you can always copy paste it in the File Explorer, and it's trying to, why is it thinking it's going to open it twice? Try again when the database is available. Let's close it to make sure it doesn't think it's open in multiple places. That's a little weird. Let's try that again. Open AC2, and I'm going to do a File Save As in Spring 23 AC3 and enter, and it's happy this time. I don't know why it complained that first time. Now remember, whenever you save it, it reopens it with the new name, and this little security warning comes up because it's worried you might be opening something that's in an unsafe place. Since I know I'm in a safe place, I'm going to click Enable Content. Now, what do they want us to do in this? Well, we're going to learn basic things that when somebody's given you a database, done all the work to build queries and things, you're going to do a little bit of database maintenance. So let's go to that chapter here in the book, and I think I might have to re-log in. Oh, seems to be letting me back into the book. Let's see if it lets me to go to that page. Oh, something went wrong. I have to go back and reopen the book here. Okay. All right. Chapter 3 of the Access modules. AC3. And the main topic here is maintaining a database. So if we bring up the little page in the book here, here's what our goal is for this, part 3. We're going to, having been given a database that you've worked hard on building, all the pieces, all the tables, we're going to be modifying some records in it, easy, just changing things. Just like in a spreadsheet, I can go right into the table and make changes. We're going to be searching for something, and let's pretend it's a huge database full of millions of items. Even though it's just a few pages, I could find it by myself. Filtering records, updating this. This is an important thing. I change how my table is structured. Either I add more fields to tables, or I change what can go in there, such as the type of treatment that we can give a patient. We're going to have them only be able to choose from a list of patients. We could even make a table of the valid states to enter when I'm entering a state address, but that's a lot more work than we want to do. We're going to build queries that not only select information, but update or delete information. Very dangerous queries. We want to make sure that they don't type in bad values, so we're going to start specifying validation rules. And some lookup fields where they don't have to type it, they just click and it selects from a list. This is probably the most nerdy thing we're going to do. We're going to specify referential integrity. That's just a scary word, meaning you can't refer to pets that don't exist, or pets can't be referring to owners that don't exist. That's what referential integrity is. And we can do even fancier stuff with sub-data sheets. We might get to the sub-data sheet part. Okay, so we have Access. We've saved it as AC3. Now we're ready to do some maintenance on it. And one of the basic maintenance things are over here in Database Tools. I can do this anytime I want. I can compact and repair my database. This isn't as big a deal right now because we have a tiny database. We haven't made many changes. But anytime you want to compact and repair it, it'll make sure there's not any extra data laying around that needs to be cleaned up. You'd think it would do it automatically, but that is something that we can do. There's other things we're going to be coming back to later. So back on the Home tab, what do we want to do here? We're going to update some records. And we're going to do it. We can decide how we're going to view our records. So let's go back here. We're going to create a form that allows us to update the records. Knowing though that I can always just click on any table and modify the data there. Okay, that's an easy way to update records. Just edit the raw data. Any table you can go in there and edit the data. But we're going to do it a slightly fancier way, just to give you a little more experience with Access. We're going to build a form to change the data, just to make it a little friendlier and to build up our skills. So we're going to click on the veterinary vendors table, and then we're going to click Create. And in the forms, we know how to create a basic form, but we're not going to do that. We're going to click something a little fancier. We're going to create a split form. It's just a little fancier. Let's see what a split form does. I can view the data in the lovely form view, but also I can see it in datasheet view, and I can click down there and change it, or click up here and make changes. Now, you imagine that could be confusing to people, but let's just see how that will work. I can browse through my form with the little browsing buttons down here. Go to fields or record number 1 through 5, and in the form up above, I see the data in user-friendly form view. And down below, I see the row highlighted that the form is showing. I can always click down here and make a change, or click up here and make a change. And let's see what changes they want us to make. We're going to the very last record, I think. Are we going to the very last record? Let's see here. We haven't made any changes actually to the data. We just have made the split form. Now we're going to save the split form. So I thought we were going to actually change some data, and I don't see them actually changing any data. They just make the form and browse with the form. Yeah, we're not entering any new data. Okay. They just highlight what all these little navigation buttons are right there. So let's save it. Either by closing it, it'll ask me, do I want to save it? Or I do a Control S, and now it asks me for a name. And they want us to call it Veterinary Vendors Split Form. And let's add to that the page number in the book where this is at. This is AC3-4. And it appears now over here in our forms, in our navigator right there, AC3-4. And I can close it anytime I want to see the split view of my data and form. Double click on that, and I'm back to split form view. This is the more likely thing you'll run into. Someone's filled in the database, given you one, and lets you view the data in this manner. Now, they would like us to add a record now using this split form that we just created. So now we're actually going to make data changes by going to the very last record right here. Either I can browse all the way to the end or click down here on the new blank record. That takes me to the very last row, and I can type up here the new ID is going to be 6. And it's not letting me type in an ID. Uh-oh, did I do something wrong? Let's try entering the data. Maybe I don't type anything. Let's type in state is Texas. It's letting me type in Texas. Oh, look at that. Auto numbers the ID in the vendors. Global Pet Supply is the name. And I can tab to go to the next box. The actual tab order can be controlled by the designer of the form, but you don't have to worry about being a form designer. Tabbing to each record in the order that they give, and feline leukemia vaccine. Yes.
It's not letting me type anything.
And there's 50 on hand and of price 9.75. Okay, type there. No, you can't type there. You can't type there. You only can type. Start at the vendor name and fill in that. Let's see what lets you type there. It's not letting you type there. Oh, because you are in form view. Go upper left, click on form view. Upper left. Left. Down. See the little view box? Upper left corner. Left, 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 left. Click on that form. Now see if it lets you type. That's a goofy thing. Blame access.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. When you first make it, it puts you in layout view. Then when you open the next time, it puts you in form view. Just to be confusing. Blame it on Microsoft. Because they have made this, well, they've tried to make it less confusing. Remember how confusing that writing that SQL code would be. So this is the data we're entering. And remember, you could just as well have typed it down here in datasheet view. So if you prefer datasheet view, you could just type it right here, and it would fill it in the same as though you typed it up in the form. The thing about the form is you can prevent them from typing in certain boxes and only let them change things in other boxes. Okay? So that's what, now we're just simply using the form that we built, the split form. We're using it to actually change the data. Now you can always search for data using the find or the control F to find a particular record. So I'm up here in this table and I want to find somebody who's, well, let's try control F and see what happens. I'm here in the form, I do control F and up pops the find. Well, I can look in whatever current field I happen to be in. I don't even know what field I happen to have the cursor in. Or I can just say, look in anything in the document, match part of the field with what I'm searching for, such as, I can't even tell what they're typing, microchips. Microchip. Look in the document and I find, hey look, there's microchip in my table. So just like I can search through documents, I can search through tables, but remember the control F lets me search and I can decide where I'm looking, in just a specific column that I happen to be in, or the entire document, match exactly what I type, or match a part of it. To me, it seems the natural way is to current document, any part of it, look for a particular word. If it were the whole field, I'm not going to find a match because it's microchips plural, not microchips singular. So I prefer any part of the field, just like a Google search uses part of what I typed to find it. So control F is, or the home tab find, is your way to search through your table. And of course, even the more dangerous, search and replace, which we're not going to do. So just a quick example, nothing to save there except knowing that you can search. Now we would like to make a change in veterinary vendor number 3. So I can either browse to line 3 or browse up here, navigate to record number 3, and what we'd like to do is change the street address or not the street address, the name of the corporation. And I actually see I have a typo in my corporation. Supplies Corporation. We're going to change corporation to be LLC. I had it spelled wrong anyway. So Mays Supplies LLC is the change we're making, and it's actually suppliers. I see it's supply. No, it is supply. Sorry, I thought it said suppliers for a minute there. it immediately changed. Remember this, in databases, when you make a change, it immediately goes into the table of the database. I can close this, and unless I've adjusted column width or something, it doesn't say, do you want to save changes? If I just change the data, and I close it, there's no, oh, did you want to save that? There are undos until you close the table. So if I made a bad error, too many S's, Control Z will undo, and you can see that up there. The undo is available. But if I close it, suppose I make a misspelling and then I close it, I open it again. Let's see if it'll let me Control Z that. Nope, it doesn't Control Z anymore than my bad spelling. So you can do an undo until you have closed the table. And that was using the split form. But remember, I could always just go to my veterinary vendors table and edit it right there, and I'm making the same change, and I can see the change I made viewing it in the form. So underlying all of this, you are actually changing the data, even though it looks like I am changing it in the form. Changing it here does actually change it inside that table. So think of a form as a view into your database table, letting you change what's in there. Now, here's a dangerous thing we're going to do. We're going to delete a record. This is something that in the world of databases, because there may be a reason to go back and have text records about Sanchez supplies and what we sent them 2 years ago because someone has a lawsuit about their vaccine. Usually people don't delete data out of databases, thinking it might be useful sometime in the future. And everybody does that. And that's why databases just grow larger and larger and get slower and slower, because people think, I might use this data somewhere. And it's so easy just to not delete it. They can be data hoarders, because sometime in the past they remembered, oh, if they had not deleted that data, they would have been able to do something. But sometimes you do have to delete records. But here's the deal. Just in case you may have made the wrong change, someone in your company, in your IT group, should be making a database backup every day if it's important information. Data backup. You make a copy of your database, store it somewhere safe, burn it to a CD, in case you deleted something you weren't supposed to. That's your IT people's job, and it's your job to ask them, hey, how often do you do a database backup as we're using all this data? It's a good question everyone should ask, because those IT people sometimes forget about that, and even though they're likely to be held responsible, your data still may be lost if you don't remind them, remember to do a backup. So anytime you have data that's valuable to you, make sure someone in your company is backing it up. I'm going to skip the filtering part because I don't find it terribly interesting or useful at this time, because we can do queries to do filtering and things. So I think the filter is worthless. And I'm going to jump ahead to the structure of the database. This is more important. You have a database. I'm going to close my split table now that I'm done using it. Remember, always close things when you're done with them. Don't leave them hanging open. Access will complain that something's open, that it doesn't like doing something else when something else is open. So anytime you look at a query, close it when you're done with it. We're going to now change something in our database. We're going to change a field. And the reason, we'll show you the reason for this. So we're going to take a look at our veterinary vendors table. So way back up to tables. And we're going to right click on your veterinary vendors table. Right click, design. This is where you think, hey, in case I do this wrong, do I have a backup? Well, our backup is AC2 project. Design view of my veterinary vendors table. And we're going to modify the quantity. The quantity field, as I click on it, I see some properties down here of my quantity that can be typed in there. I would like to change what this number could be. A long integer can be very large. I want to replace this input mask. No, field size. Sorry, field size. We're going to change the field size from long integer to a thing called single. That means that it's something that can have some decimals in it, such as, pounds of whatever supply I might have. So rather than forcing it to only be an integer, now I'm allowing them to type a number that has a decimal part to it. And now I see that the field size now changes to single. Now, just to see how that affects me, there's one more change I want to make. Not only do I want to make it single, I want to make it fixed. So I change the format, click the little arrowy thingy, change it to fixed format. And the number of decimal places I want to enable to be 2 decimal places. So single, fixed, 2 decimal places. Just like dollar figures, but in this case, it's a quantity number. And let's see, are we doing any other changes to my properties? Let's see how this works now. I'm going to now switch to datasheet view of my veterinary vendors table. Saving my changes I just made. And now let's go over to quantity and watch what happens. Look at that. My quantities now have a number dot with decimals after them. Let's try and add a third decimal. Let's try and make it 50.001. It throws away that 001 and switches it back to 2 decimals. Oh, but it remembers that it does have the ones in there. It didn't actually throw them away. It just does not display them. Kind of like in Excel, displaying it with only 2 decimals. And that is because I changed that from integer to single precision numbers. Okay? Now you don't have to go and make changes to the numbers, but that's the effect of that. Let's go back to design view now and make some other design changes to this table. Yes?
So this computer's having issues again. When I'm trying to do quantity and change it to single, it says long integer and it doesn't let me delete it.
No, you can't delete it. You have to change what it is.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Click in the very, see the little down arrow way over on the right side?
This one?
Yep. Now choose single. It's not letting you change it to single. Is it open? Let's go open. Let's go close that form.
This one?
The veterinary vendors form. Doesn't like to have that open. Go ahead and close that form. Saving changes. Close the form. Do you want to save changes to the design? Yes. It is not closing it, is it? Okay, do no then. It's not letting you close. Try and say no then. Now let's see if it'll let you make changes. And if not, then we're going to. Is it just is your computer acting up again on us? Feeling like it.
I have a feeling this would happen.
All right. What we gotta do, let's see if it's, go ahead and close access. And let's see, does it let you click that and do anything?
You have to do this and this.
Yep. Do a restart.
Oh no.
Okay, so it's acting like it was before. All right. Maybe we'll just do this every time we come back.
Probably.
All right. Now it's come back. Fortunately, they come up fairly quickly. And my screen just went black. Why would my screen just go black on me over here? My main screen. Can I bump it? My main screen screen just went dark on me. I didn't even move anything. Gonna have to blame Diana. She made me get up, and that caused my screen to stop working.
And now it won't be on. And I turned it on twice.
That's weird. My screen just
Power button.
lost video. Let's see if I get video back.
It turns orange.
My video just went away.
But then it'll turn orange and just like stop.
I have a light.
Is it an issue with the Wi-Fi?
That's the weirdest thing. I just lost video. I remember I had wiggled these cables a little bit when I was messing with my microphone.
You might want to look at this computer because I think something's wrong with it.
Is that coming up?
It'll come up, and then after a while, the button will turn orange, and it just does the same thing again. And after I turn it on,
That's turning on the monitor. This is the computer button.
Okay.
And I had turned it on. Here it comes.
Now it's working.
I thought I had pushed the button and saw lights.
Now it's working. Thank you.
Now I've got mine is broken.
Sorry.
Oh, I see. I think I see the problem. The little tiny cable there is loose. There we go. Okay, so we changed this from single to fixed, and decimal place is 2. And I'm saving the changes to that. Now we would like something even more interesting in our veterinary vendors. So I'm going to right-click Design View on that again, if I have it closed. And I want to add a field. I'm going to close this just so you can see a little bit more here. I'm going to add a field right underneath veterinary supply. To do that, I go to the row below it, the quantity row, and I right-click Insert Rows. That will insert a row above me, very much like Excel. If I want a new row here, so I'm going to do an Insert Row, and now I have a row between veterinary supply and quantity. The name of this field is going to be product type. And now comes a fancy thing. I'm going to make that product type be a field that they have to look up from a selection. So product type, and the data type, I'm going to choose the lookup wizard. Let's make sure Diana gets in here.
I'm so lost.
Okay, so go to Design View now of the veterinary vendors. No. Just click on the little triangle-y thing. That's Design View. Okay. Click on Quantity. Go down to Properties and see if they'll let you change that to Fixed or to Single. And then the next one, Format, change that to Fixed. And then decimal places, change that to 2. There we go. And now, right-click in the gray next to the word quantity up on top. Right-click the word quantity, go down to the word quantity, and right-click Insert Row. And then we're going to type in that field right above there. Click in the field above quantity. Type in product type. And then click on this little pull down, and I'll go all the way down to Lookup Wizard. We're going to tell Access to let us type or let us select from a list for what goes in this choice. So Lookup Wizard, and I'm going to type in the values that I want. So select type in the values that I want, and now we're going to type in these values. So type in the values that I want and click Next. And let's start typing in some values. And I'm going to make sure I get the right ones in here. The ones we're going to type in here are VAC, capital VAC, and then down arrow, and capital MC, and down arrow, and SUP, standing for vaccine, microchip, or supplies. Supplement, perhaps. And now I click next. So I've made a column of 3 values, and I click next. I'm going to click on this one. I think we're choosing neither of these checkboxes. Make sure neither of these checkboxes are checked. And now I click finish, and watch what happens. Nothing terribly exciting happens. It's like, okay, we made that a lookup field. How do I know I've done anything? Well, let's go back and look at datasheet view now, and saving my changes. And let's go to that product type column and watch what I can do. If I click on product type, look at that. Lets me, when someone's entering data, they can select from that list when they're entering data for that particular item in my table. So that's how the multi-valued field works. Saving them from having to remember, what should I type here? Well, choose from the list rather than having to remember what's available. So we're going to also now add another field in my appointments table. So I added that extra field type in the veterinary vendors table. Remember, I did that by going to design view of my table, and I added the additional record there. So I'm going to now close my veterinary vendors table, saving the changes. And now let's go to our treatment number table, or sorry, appointments table. I'm going to right click design view of my appointments table, because we're going to create a field for the treatment number and it's going to go right above the treatment number. So right on treatment number, we're going to insert a row right above that. So I'm going to insert a blank row, insert a row. And this is the part, this is going to be, let me make sure I get this, the name of this field right. The name of this field is going to be service abbreviation. So let's call it service abbreviation. And we're going to use a lookup wizard for this field. Okay, so service abbreviation, inserted, lookup wizard for the data type. And now the data types are going to be typed in. I'm going to be typing in the values I want. And next, let's type them in. And here are the values. They gave them to me on the previous page in the book, and here are the values I'm going to be typing in. T-1, and then arrow down. T-2 all the way up to T-14. I'm going to check something real quick here. Are we doing... We're doing just one column. Yeah. Yeah, all the way up to T-14. Even though I could have added a second column, they're not asking us to do that. If I were doing this, I'd be adding the next column, giving a description of that. But we're just putting in numbers T-1 all the way up to T-14. I don't really like lookup wizards or any wizards because you don't learn how to do it on your own if you need to come back and make a change. But we'll live with the wizard for now, putting in all our treatment or service abbreviations from T1 to T-14. Now that we have those in there, we can click Next. And we do want to allow multiple values on this one. Okay. So that's going to be storing multiple values. And now I can click Finish. Everybody ready with that? Got that data in there? How do I know the change? Well, let's go to Datasheet View, saving my changes. And now when I go to Service Abbreviation, I can select multiple service abbreviations for that particular appointment. And then I click OK. And if I expand that row, I'll see that they're listed there separated by commas. But I have check marks next to the service abbreviations that I am assigning for that particular appointment. So where before I had only one treatment that I had to type in, here by having a lookup, I can specify what treatments they're getting in that appointment. Because typically a typical appointment has more than just one treatment. By making it a multiple lookup using the lookup wizard. And I click OK. Now remember Design View? If I go back to Design View and I click on Service Abbreviation, how do I know what the wizard did? If I go here to the little lookup tab, here's what the wizard did for me. When I did all that, type in the values I want, it basically made this thing called row source for me. Knowing how to do it by hand is kind of nice, but the wizard did all this little awkward stuff for you. Rather than you having to figure out how combo boxes work, it just says, use the wizard, allow me to type in multiple things. So this is the details that the wizard is doing for you. Okay, so now you know how to enter or add a new field that allows multiple things. That's the point of this, is that you have options to the changes you're making to your database. Now let's see if we can add one more field here. We're going to add a calculated field to our database. We're going to add in our veterinary vendors, we would like to, remember how we made the calculated field in the query? We're going to actually make it here right in the table. Right at the very last, it's in the veterinary vendors table. We'll close appointments. In the veterinary vendors table, right-click Design. At the very bottom, we're going to put a total here, total amount. And here, we're going to, instead of choosing short text, we're going to choose calculated field. And just like we did the calculation before, the calculation here is going to say quantity in square brackets, quantity, right square bracket, asterisk for the multiply, left square bracket, cost. And let me bring up Notepad so you can read that a little easier here. That's what I'm going to put in that little box for the calculation. It's quantity times asterisk cost. Have to spell it exactly right or it will break. Quantity times cost. Now let's see the effect of that. After I do finish or OK, I click OK. Watch what happens now when I go to enter data in datasheet view, saving my changes. I go to the end of the table and look at that. It's already calculating total amount. But it seems to me total amount should be single fixed 2 decimal, but I don't think they've told us to do that. So we'll not do that unless they tell us we have to. It's a calculated field. Yeah, they didn't worry about making this single fixed decimal point. Okay, so what we've done so far, we've just seen how we can make little tweaks to the design of our database and make it work a little nicer for us. The control over the input is the key, because we don't want corrupt data getting into our database. So we give them a choice what to enter there. And in the appointments, we give them a choice what to enter here. They don't have to type it in. That makes less of a chance that they type in the wrong thing. If they can only choose something I give them a choice from. Because corrupt or good data is super important for databases to work properly. Okay, we'll stop there. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the warming weather. And we'll save that recording. And I'll check that the audio works each time. I'll just close OBS every time.